Give it a quick kiss.
No.
And then do the classic.
I think easily at auction you would get in the region of £3,000 to £4,000.
Oh, I really didn't think it would be worth.
I think they would be worth £20,000.
Jeepers.
Would you ever imagine an old trophy could be worth over $1 million? For most families, these cups were nothing more than cherished souvenirs of victories long past. But on Antiques Roadshow, experts revealed that some were among the rarest sporting treasures ever made. Objects tied to royalty, legendary championships, and history itself. What began as ordinary family heirlooms ended with astonishing appraisals worth hundreds of thousands, and in one extraordinary case, well over $1 million. Not every antique silver piece was created to become a collector's treasure. Sometimes, its story begins with nothing more than an act of friendship. That is exactly what makes these silver cups so remarkable. They spent more than a century quietly passing through one family before revealing a connection to one of Europe's greatest design pioneers. And that surprising connection was only the beginning.
They were my great-grandfathers. So my great-grandfather grew up in the same village as JOSEF HOFFMANN in Czechoslovakia, and then they both moved to Vienna. And then my great-grandfather wanted to support him in his designs, and so he acquired these.
The provenance immediately caught the appraiser's attention. JOSEF HOFFMANN was one of the defining figures of early 20th century European design and a co-founder of Wiener Werkstatt, the renowned workshop celebrated for combining outstanding craftsmanship with bold, modern ideas. His work helped shape an entirely new design movement. Even so, reputation alone could not determine the value. The real test was whether these cups still preserved the original details that could prove exactly where they came from.
JOSEF HOFFMANN designed these for the Wiener Werkstatt. Each of these is hand-hammered. On the underside, it has the Wiener Werkstatt mark. And up here, we have JOSEF HOFFMANN's initials, and then we have the Wiener Werkstatt mark, and then we have the mark of the person who actually fabricated it.
Those tiny hallmarks changed everything. They identified the designer, the workshop, and even the craftsman who created each piece. Because Wiener Werkstatt objects were handmade in extremely limited numbers, examples that still retain every original mark after more than 100 years are exceptionally difficult to find. With every detail matching perfectly, only one question remained.
This is the high point of design in the early part of the 20th century, and Hoffmann was the master of design.
By this point, the story had all the ingredients of an extraordinary discovery. Now it was finally time to learn what these family heirlooms were really worth.
I think a retail replacement value for them would be in the $30,000 to $50,000 range.
Oh my God. Wow, I had no idea. Holy cow. I should probably I should probably take better care of them, keep them better. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
What began as a purchase made to support a lifelong friend eventually became a family treasure worth between $30,000 and $50,000. More importantly, these silver cups preserve a remarkable story of friendship, exceptional craftsmanship, and a design legacy that continues to inspire collectors more than a century later. At first glance, this looks like nothing more than an old family cup and saucer. There is nothing flashy about it, no gold, no jewels, but a bundle of forgotten letters would soon change everything. And the deeper the experts looked, the more extraordinary the story became.
Well, it's been in the family for a long time, but my mother died earlier in the year. I'm her executor, and in her will, she is passing this on to my cousin, her niece.
The appraiser's attention immediately shifted away from the porcelain itself. Instead, he focused on the letters that had remained with the set for generations. In the antiques world, original documents can completely transform an object's importance. This letter was about to do exactly that.
The letter says here, Her Majesty the Empress Queen is sorry to hear of your departure from Koblenz. I am directed to forward to you the following parcel containing a piece of china made in the Royal Manufactory in Berlin.
Those few lines revealed an unexpected royal connection. The Royal Manufactory in Berlin, better known as KPM, supplied porcelain to the Prussian court and was celebrated for its exceptional craftsmanship. But where the cup was made was only part of the story. Its real significance came from who had once owned it.
When this was given, this wasn't a new cup and saucer. It would have been something that the Empress had in her china cabinet or on her dressing table. And she's chosen this personal relic to give to her friend, the Reverend Pocock, as a gift.
That single detail changed everything. Rather than a formal royal gift, this was most likely one of Empress Augusta's own personal possessions. Collectors place extraordinary value on objects with that kind of direct royal provenance. Only one question remained.
So a costly cup and saucer when it was given, and a true heirloom indeed, because now a piece like that with the royal provenance, I guess it's going to be £4,000, even £5,000.
Really?
The estimate was far beyond what the family had imagined. But the surprise wasn't over yet.
Ah, we talked about it in the car on the way here and had sort of guessed at perhaps 400. What do we know?
The jump from only a few £100s to several thousand was remarkable. Yet the true treasure was never just the valuation. After nearly 1.5 centuries, the porcelain and the original letter had survived together. That rare combination turned a simple family heirloom into an authentic piece of European royal history. Few sporting artifacts can leave even an Antiques Roadshow expert speechless at first sight. This trophy is one of them.
It's a real pleasure to meet you. I'm really rather stunned and shocked with what you brought along.
Well, I think one of the things that I find really interesting about trophies generally is how different they can all be.
Rather than beginning with the history of the FA Cup, the appraiser focused on its appearance. The fruiting vines decorating the trophy looked more like ornamental silverwork than something created for football. That raised an intriguing question. Was this trophy actually designed for the competition in the first place?
Well, it's a very good question, because having looked at this fairly recently, I noticed that it's embossed with fruiting vines. And there's nothing on this to indicate that it was made specially as a football trophy. Now, I might be banned from every football ground in the country for saying this, but I suspect this might have been an off-the-shelf piece.
The answer takes the story back more than a century. The Campania style originated from ancient Greek and Roman vessels before becoming popular in European decorative silver. That is why the FA Cup resembles a classical work of art more than a traditional football trophy. But that was only the beginning of its story.
The first FA Cup, which was played in 1872 on a cricket ground at the Oval where Surrey play, that was known as the Little Tin Idol, which is a wonderful nickname. It was made of silver, but that was what it was called. Then in 1895, when Aston Villa won the cup for the second time, they put it on display in a local shop, and with ours, the cup was stolen. Then that one was withdrawn because it was discovered that a rival football competition were using exactly the same cup. So in comes this beauty in 1911.
Although its hallmarks had almost completely disappeared, experts were still able to identify Fattorini & Sons as its maker. That discovery confirmed that this trophy represented far more than fine silver craftsmanship. It represented the history of the world's oldest football competition.
Although the marks are completely worn, we know it was made by Fattorini & Sons.
Made in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Only one challenge remained. How do you place a value on an object with almost nothing comparable in existence?
Is it possible to put a value on something like this, with all that history that you've just described?
I was just going to say, the hardest thing of all about this is trying to put a value on it. This is probably, along with maybe the Wimbledon trophy, the most famous cup in the country. I think quite comfortably this has got to be worth well over £1 million.
That is why its true value is measured not only in well over £1 million, but also in its irreplaceable place in sporting history. Not every Wimbledon trophy ends up in a museum or remains at the All England Club. Sometimes, one of the rarest pieces of tennis history is preserved by the champion's own family for generations. That is exactly what makes this remarkable trophy so extraordinary.
Norman Brooks is known as the father of Australian tennis. What relationship is he to you?
He's my grandfather. In his tennis career, he won many events, but he won Wimbledon at 1907, being the first foreigner to win Wimbledon, which was considered a mammoth effort.
Norman Brooks's victory in 1907 changed Wimbledon forever. He became the first overseas player to win the gentlemen's singles title, ending Britain's long period of dominance. Almost overnight, he became a sporting icon in Australia. Artifacts connected to that historic achievement have rarely appeared on the collector's market.
We believe this trophy and the 1914 are the only full-size replicas in existence. Other than that, everyone else has only got miniatures.
Right.
So he got a miniature. But grandfather, got, we believe, the only two full-size replicas. And even when we inquired at Wimbledon, they didn't even know.
If that belief is correct, this trophy is unlike almost any other piece of sporting memorabilia. Champions normally received only miniature versions. A full-size replica was almost unheard of. That single detail left even the appraiser astonished.
Which makes it exceptional, because I mean, I have to say, when I initially saw it, I just thought, well, somebody's stolen it, brought it over here, but exceptionally rare.
Its rarity is only part of the story. This trophy also represents the moment Australia first reached the very top of Wimbledon. That is exactly what makes placing a value on it so difficult.
But what's this worth? I mean, only one other replica known, which you also own.
Yes.
And obviously the original, which is at Wimbledon.
With almost nothing comparable in existence, any valuation can only be an estimate. Even so, the final figure still surprised everyone.
It's a massively important trophy to tennis enthusiasts. It's difficult to come up with the price, but I would think at auction you're talking about a figure well in excess of $75,000.
Yes.
Or £30,000, so a fantastic piece.
More than a century after Norman Brooks made history, this trophy has become a symbol of an entire nation. It preserves the memory of the first champion from outside Britain to conquer Wimbledon. It also marks the unforgettable moment Australia announced itself on the world's greatest tennis stage. At first glance, this looks like an ordinary polo trophy. But one detail immediately changes that impression. Instead of a horse, the figure on top is a motorcycle. And that unexpected design opens the door to the story of a sport that has almost disappeared from public memory.
My grandfather was a member of the West Texas, based out of Lubbock, Motorcycle Polo Club. His team played throughout Texas. I heard they played as far west as El Paso. And apparently that was the league, and they won that league.
Motorcycle polo appeared in the United States during the early 1930s. Instead of riding horses, players rode motorcycles while using mallets to drive the ball toward the opposing goal. The sport existed for only a relatively short time before gradually fading away. As a result, surviving trophies from that era are now exceptionally rare.
Wow.
And in 1934, my grandfather, I believe his 7 teammates and the coach drove 1,700 miles to Philadelphia and won 9-7.
That journey took place during the Great Depression, when traveling such a great distance was no small challenge. But the biggest surprise was still to come. This trophy may represent one of the earliest milestones in the history of the sport itself.
Motorcycle polo, which a lot of people have never heard of, actually got started in the early 30s. But this leads me to believe from everything I've read that this is probably the first motorcycle polo national championship trophy, because I cannot find one any earlier.
Wow.
In the world of sports collectibles, being the first always carries special significance. If that conclusion is correct, this trophy represents far more than a championship victory. It stands as a surviving witness to the very first national motorcycle polo championship. That is what makes it truly special.
I'd place an auction estimate of $2,000 to $4,000 on it.
Awesome. And that is a little bit higher than I expected, and it's not going anywhere.
If you're going to insure it, I'd insure it for about $5,000.
Okay, thank you very much.
This may not be the most valuable trophy ever seen on Antiques Roadshow, but it preserves the legacy of the pioneers who helped shape a sport that has almost vanished. Sometimes the greatest value of an artifact is not its price, but the remarkable piece of history that only it can still tell. At first glance, it is hard to believe this was ever intended to be a sporting trophy. Instead of the familiar cup or shield, it takes the form of an elaborately crafted ram's head. Its unusual appearance immediately caught the experts' attention, and it quickly became clear that this was anything but an ordinary prize.
This extraordinary looking ram's head is inscribed GPS 1897 1-mile bicycle race, first prize. Now, I've valued and seen hundreds, maybe thousands of trophies in my time, and I don't think I've ever seen one quite like this.
Glasgow Police Sports was one of Scotland's best-known sporting events during the late 19th century. It was also a period when bicycle racing was rapidly growing, as the new safety bicycle gradually replaced the high-wheeled penny farthing. This trophy captures one of the earliest chapters of a sport that continues to thrive today.
GPS is Glasgow Police Sports, and it was my grandfather, James Watt Blaine. He won the 1-mile bike race.
Right.
And in the photograph, he's the gentleman on holding the bike.
So he's the one on the left?
He's the one on the left.
But the most fascinating discovery had nothing to do with the race itself. The appraiser began to suspect that this object had never originally been made as a trophy. That theory soon led to a completely unexpected answer.
The most interesting thing of all, though, is do you know what this is?
An unusual item to give to somebody at Glasgow Police Sports. Why a ram's head? And I think possibly that was part of a breakfast set, and they put flowers in the back.
Well, you're not a million miles away, but it is actually a spoon warmer.
A spoon warmer was once a familiar feature on the dining tables of wealthy Victorian households. It was designed to keep serving spoons warm before desserts were served. Today, examples like this have become exceptionally rare, especially when they survive in such remarkable condition and carry an unusual sporting history. That combination is what makes this trophy so special.
But as far as spoon warmers go, this is one of the rarest, and I have to say, one of the nicest I've ever seen.
Well, my wife hates it. I love it.
This remarkable piece appeals to two very different collecting worlds. It is both a fine Victorian silver-plated object and an important reminder of the early days of competitive cycling. That rare combination makes it especially difficult to value.
Probably made by one of the big plating firms like Elkington's, who are based in Birmingham. But it's superb quality. It's very collectible. It's also interesting from the cycling point of view. So, got to come up with an idea what it might be worth. I think it could easily make close to £1,000 at auction.
More than a century after that bicycle race, this remarkable ram's head still preserves the story of a victory and one of competitive cycling's earliest eras. Sometimes the most unforgettable trophies are the ones nobody would ever imagine were created to honor a champion. What makes this silver cup so unusual is that it was never presented to celebrate a victory or a royal ceremony. Instead, it was given because of an unexpected event that completely changed the royal party's plans.
We brought along a really good-looking piece of Victorian silver with silver gilt panels on it. And it's got some interesting initials engraved on it, but appear to be the V for Queen Victoria, A for Prince Albert, and LP, which I think might be Louis Philippe, King of the French.
Yep.
And it has a date, October the 14th, 1844.
Those initials immediately take the story back to 1844. That was the year King Louis Philippe made a state visit to Britain. But severe weather disrupted the return journey. As a result, the royal party unexpectedly stopped at the home of Thomas Grant for afternoon tea.
In 1844, there was a visit from the King of the French to the UK, a state visit. Upon his return, a storm brewed up. So she came with her party, including Louis Philippe and Albert. And that was a gift that the Queen gave to Thomas as a thank you.
Thomas Grant was not a member of the royal family. He was a respected Victorian inventor whose innovations supported British industry and maritime life. That background gave this gift a significance far beyond an ordinary silver cup. Its journey, however, was only beginning.
He said it deserves to be back with you, so he sold it to us for the same price he paid for it, $3,300.
After years of persistence, the family finally returned the cup to the very house where its original owner had once lived. Collectors rarely encounter an object that still maintains such a strong connection to both its owner and its original home. That remarkable provenance makes this story even more compelling.
Well, let's take off the lid. It's got a set of marks in here for Robert Garrard. And Garrards were the royal jewellers at the time. It has a date letter here for 1844, which ties in, and it's all in the very high Victorian style.
The Garrard hallmark confirmed everything. That combination of royal craftsmanship, documented provenance, and genuine historical context elevated this silver cup into an entirely different class.
But overall, a very handsome piece. The fact it's royal, the fact that Grant is a reasonably well-known character, if this came up for auction now, I can easily see it making £6,000, £8,000. So I think you've done
brilliant. Well, my wife did well. Yeah, fantastic.
Nearly 180 years later, this silver cup still tells the remarkable story of an unexpected meeting between royalty and an ordinary man. Sometimes an artifact's greatest value lies not only in what it is worth, but in the fact that it somehow finds its way back to where its story first began. Not every medal is created to celebrate a victory. Some are awarded only after a nation has paid for its future with sacrifice and loss. That is exactly the story behind this remarkable group of medals. For Ireland, they represent one of the defining moments on the country's road to independence.
The medals that we have here today are not medals that we usually get to see, not only on the roadshow, but anywhere really. We have the 1916 medal, which is the medal that takes precedent over all other Irish medals, and that is for the Easter Rising of 1916.
The Easter Rising of 1916 lasted for only about a week. Although it ended in military defeat, it became the foundation of Ireland's struggle for independence. That is why medals awarded to those who took part are regarded as some of the nation's most important historical artifacts.
They belong to my grandmother's aunt and uncle. There were 3 siblings who participated in the Easter Rising and then in the Irish War of Independence.
What makes this collection even more remarkable is that it tells the story of an entire family. 3 brothers and sisters all played their part during one of the most significant periods in Irish history. That clear provenance transforms each medal into a genuine witness to the past.
So where were they? What part did they play?
My aunt was in the GPO.
The GPO, so that's the General Post Office?
Yeah, with Pádraig Pearse and James Connolly.
The General Post Office served as the headquarters of the uprising and was where the proclamation of the Irish Republic was first proclaimed. Knowing that these medals belong to participants who were present there gives them extraordinary historical significance. But there was an even rarer discovery still to come.
The medals themselves came out in 1941.
Yeah.
But we have this armband as well, so tell me what the armband was.
The armband would have been given to participants of the Easter Rising prior to the issuing of the medals.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible little thing.
The armband was issued before the official medals and has become even rarer than the medals themselves. Even more unusual, one of its original recipients was a woman who took part in the uprising. That makes this collection especially significant to historians and collectors alike.
Now, they do have a value, and I think because one of them is a lady, that's rare. I think they would be worth £20,000.
Jeepers.
They are an incredible set to 2 of 3 proud subjects of Ireland. So I'm amazed to see them, truly. And thank you so much for showing us.
To collectors, these medals are exceptionally valuable. But to Ireland, they preserve the story of 3 siblings who stood together during a defining moment in their nation's history. That is a legacy no appraisal can ever fully measure. At first glance, this old presentation box looks completely unremarkable. Its plain appearance even made the appraiser laugh. But the moment the lid was opened, every first impression disappeared. Inside was a collection of beautifully crafted medallions that immediately signaled an exceptionally rare discovery.
This is the most awful presentation box I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what anyone was thinking putting in there, but when you open it, all is completely forgiven, except for this. the dino tape.
This collection did not come from a castle or an aristocratic family. It was built one medallion at a time by a dedicated coin collector. Unable to afford the entire set at once, he patiently purchased each piece over many years. That perseverance is the reason the collection has survived intact to this day.
Well, my father-in-law was a coin collector, and he went regularly to a meeting in Newcastle and passed the shop where they sold coins. And my father-in-law got his eye on these medallions, but couldn't afford them. So the gentleman said he would put them away for him and he could buy them one at a time, which is what he did.
What excited the experts most was the subject of the medallions themselves. They commemorate Russian victories over Napoleon's army and were created as miniature works of art. Each one combines history, portraiture, and extraordinary metal engraving. That is what gives this collection its real significance.
These are like, to me, works of art in themselves. The quality of the casting is exceptional. What makes these even more exciting is the fact that they're Russian, and they're all to commemorate Russian victories over the French.
Some of the medallions still retain traces of their original luster after nearly 2 centuries. Collectors prize that kind of preservation because, in medallic art, original condition is almost everything. That detail makes this collection even more remarkable.
I mean, if you take this one here, which is incidentally my favorite, to commemorate the French trying to invade Russia in 1812.
Yes.
And these would have been struck later, sort of 1835, 1840. You've got traces of original luster on here.
After being carefully preserved for generations, the medallions remain in a condition rarely seen today. That quality made the final valuation far higher than the owner ever expected.
Once you sort out the terrible case, I think easily at auction you would get in the region of £3,000 to £4,000.
Oh, I really didn't think they would be worth. Someone mentioned 350 a few years ago. But so,
I can beat
yes.
that. They're stunning.
For the family, this collection represents years of patient dedication. For experts, it is a remarkable group of miniature works of art that preserves important chapters of European history. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden inside the simplest and most ordinary-looking boxes. Not many people walk into a pawn shop and casually ask, "Do you have anything by Fabergé?" It is the kind of question almost no one expects to be answered. Yet this time, that playful remark led to one of the most memorable discoveries ever seen on Antiques Roadshow. And the surprises were only just beginning.
Well, I found it in a little second-hand shop, pawn shop in Warsaw. And my opening line was, "Got any Fabergé?" And the answer, of course, was no.
Yeah.
And then a voice from the back said, "Oh, we've got an unredeemed pledge." They were a pawn shop.
Right.
They had that they'd lent money on, and the owner had not come back to collect it, and the pledge expired the next day. So I was back in there.
The owner returned on the very day the pledge expired and bought the piece before anyone else could. At the time, he simply hoped he had found something interesting. Instead, the small case turned out to bear the name of Karl Fabergé, the legendary jeweler to the Russian imperial court. That discovery changed everything.
But what is so nice about this case is it's got this very unusual bit of Art Nouveau.
Yes.
And Fabergé very seldom used Art Nouveau decoration in his production. So we've got that as a big plus point. We've got a down point here. It's got some damage and repair there.
Fabergé rarely incorporated Art Nouveau styling into his creations. That unusual detail immediately caught the appraiser's attention. Although the case had been repaired, its greatest value still lay in its provenance and exceptional rarity. But there was an even more remarkable detail waiting to be revealed.
It's got initials here, which appear to be a J with a 1. The only thing I can tell you about that is that it's got the imperial crown at the top, so it was given by a member of the Russian royal family as a present.
The imperial crown elevated the piece into an entirely different category. It showed that this vanity case had once been presented as a gift by a member of the Russian royal family. Among collectors, provenance of that kind is extraordinarily valuable. It also made the original purchase price seem completely worthwhile.
What did you pay for it in the pawn shop?
Just under £2,000.
That price was a difficult decision at the time. But with rare Fabergé pieces, a second opportunity almost never comes along. That is exactly why the final valuation brought such a satisfying conclusion.
Well, the old adage about buy the best that you can.
Yeah.
Even with this fault, you've done pretty well. I would say anything between 4,000 and 6,000.
Sometimes a priceless treasure is not discovered in a palace or a museum, but quietly waits inside a small pawn shop for years. All it takes is the right person asking the right question at exactly the right moment for a Fabergé masterpiece to reveal itself.